Hello, everyone. My name is Toni Wesley, and I'm here with UC Merced Student Journal. Today is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, and I'm delighted to be recording our very first episode. I'll take this time to introduce the VP's previous author. Please welcome Ari Mingle. How are you, Ari?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. Like I said, this is our first recording, and I'm just super excited. So thank you.
Of course, I'm really excited about this as well.
Awesome. If you don't mind, let's jump right in.
Sure.
Uh, okay, so first, share with us a little about yourself. Like, what's your major? What are your career interests? And include a fun fact.
I am a third year undergraduate with an English major and gas minor. Some of the career interests that I have are based in writing. That's what I'm at home doing. So I want to hopefully become an editor in the future, as well as a freelance artist on the side, because that's something that I find a lot of joy doing. Fun fact about me, I like to collect buttons. I have an entire jar at home just filled to the brim with buttons. So if anyone in my household needs one, it's there.
Yeah, that is so cool. Two questions for you. What is gas miner? And I guess the other one's not necessarily a question, just a comment. Like a freelance artist, editor, that's like a dream life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the GAS program is the Global Arts Studies program. So it's something that focuses on the humanities and the arts.
Okay.
So, like painting, studying art from the past, like ancient Rome, different interests, but mainly all in the art area.
I like that. Let's discover what your experience was like submitting with the Vernal Pool. So, how did you learn about UC Merced's undergraduate journal?
I learned about the Vernal Pool because I was in one of my writing classes. I believe it was writing 90 back when I was a sophomore. Yeah, and they had one of the presentations where they would come in, introduce themselves, what they do, how, if you were interested in submitting, this is how you would go about it. I hadn't heard about it previously, but that kind of caught my attention because I'd never heard of it before, and it was something different from what I had been doing previously. I was in a club, YAM, the Young Arts Movement, and
Okay.
that was essentially a club for artists who made music, painting, and there's a gallery on campus, and so we would occasionally have shows and we would create art and submit it that way. But it wasn't something where it would be like immortalized in something published for people to look at years later. It was just something for the moment.
I
So I
see.
was really interested in that. The experience of actually doing it, it was a little bit fun, like a little bit confusing at first. So it was a
Mhm.
bit confusing at first because the website is a little bit older. So some of the instructions, like it'll tell you how to go through it. It's just like it takes some getting used to, especially with the file uploading, or if you upload the file but you don't submit the file before you continue to the next step,
Little
it
trick.
submits nothing. So it was a little bit of trial and error, but otherwise it was pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Um, the waiting part was probably the most excruciating because I did it right after the spring
Yeah.
edition came out, so I had to wait quite a while before the fall edition before they would get back to me.
Mhm.
So it was several months of waiting. It wasn't like I was hyper aware of it at like the entire time. Eventually I did forget about it, and then I got my acceptance letter like, cool, we liked your art, we would like to put it in the issue. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. It was a very pleasant surprise.
Cool. So so the Vertipool accepts like different sorts of writing. What did you actually submit?
The first time I did do writing, but I wasn't 100% comfortable, if my writing was at that par, at the level that they wanted. I wasn't sure if it was up to their standards. So I ended up going with something I've had more experience with, which was art. So I submitted a little painting that I made of a little red demon on a blue background. So that was what I submitted instead.
What did you title that piece?
I titled it Regret Upon Receiving the Golden Crown of Horns.
That's a good name.
Yeah, it took a while because I wanted to capture the feeling I wanted the piece to convey, as
Totally.
well as, what was happening in the
Yeah.
piece.
Was it difficult to produce, either the writing or art?
It was a bit daunting, I would say, at first, just because this is a published platform and you are your worst critic. So you're looking at your work, and you're thinking, man, is this something they would want to look at or even accept? Is this something people would find interesting? So it is daunting and a little bit difficult to get started in that sense.
Uh-huh.
Um, I would say that afterwards, it's best to think more of what you want to produce rather than how others would perceive it.
Yeah.
So after you start thinking in that sense, and then you start going in the direction of what do you want to say? Is there something you're passionate about, or maybe even something you like drawing often,
Mhm.
or short story subjects that you really enjoy, certain genres? And then you can explore those. And once you do that, something will be born. Eventually, if you let the stew simmer a little bit, flavor will happen.
Yeah.
So in that sense, just let it sit, give yourself time, and you'll make something that you're proud of.
For sure. Nonetheless, like you're an artist and anyone else who's going to submit work, I'm sure this is not their first rodeo. Like have confidence in yourself and just let your mind go for it.
Yeah.
So, would you ever submit work again?
Yes, in fact, I did again this semester. This time I had a little bit more confidence with the piece that I was writing, so I submitted writing this time. Uh, it was based on some dreams that I had that I would always write down. Like when I wake up, if I had something that I remember, I would write it down. Then I would take those elements and create a short story out of them. And so I've had this short story for about a year. So I've been working on it every now and again, editing how the story flowed. So I felt like it was ready. And so I decided to submit that this semester.
Neat. Would you say you've gained like any professional development or benefits from having your work published with the Vernal Pool?
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's really it's different, like I said, from having something on a gallery or showing your friends your work. It's a bit bigger, and it's also like giving yourself an official platform where,
Mhm.
other people can look at your work in the future, as well as it's a very well established paper, a literary journal. And so it kind of gives your work like some strength to it. It's a renowned journal, and your piece was included. It speaks to the quality of it. This
Mhm.
isn't to say that if you are rejected by it, you aren't at that quality.
Definitely.
Sometimes it's just the case of your piece didn't fit with the overall tone or theme of the issue at that time. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's just the core was great, but you need to work on your delivery.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's little things like that. But overall, it does give you that step up into the official world where, when you put it on your resume, people will read it, and instead of seeing, oh, you make art, it's you make art and people have liked it, and it has been published in something that many thought like the entire college university has access to.
I understand that. I bet you were, pretty like excited to share with friends and family, once you've gotten that acceptance letter, like, hey, oh my goodness, like my work is published. Like, oh my goodness, look at this. You can view it here. I bet that's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. No, it's like a big boost to your confidence, because you know that people around you like it, and it's also because they know you, so they understand where you're coming from when you make a certain piece, but you're not really sure how like the public eye would perceive it,
Hmm.
and if they would even like it, if they would appreciate you in that way, and then you do get published, and you're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I was this good, and it's really reassuring in that sense.
Yeah, that's so encouraging. I can.
Hmm.
Um, Lastly, are there any tips or suggestions you have to, fellow students who may be interested in submitting any kind of work with the Vernal Pool?
I mentioned this a bit earlier. I would say that my advice to people who want to submit, definitely make art based on what you want to show rather than what you think other people would like to see.
Hmm.
Because if you submit something that wasn't even, it didn't even have your heart in it, it wasn't something you were especially passionate about, you just thought people might like this, it's popular recently. And then you do get rejected. You get the feeling that you didn't give it your all. If you do give it your all and you put your whole heart in it and then it does get published, it's all the more, it's like an uplifting feeling, a fulfilling feeling. You gave it your all and you succeeded. And
Yeah,
even if you don't get accepted, you can keep trying. And at least you gave it your all. You put yourself in what you submitted.
yeah. Always making a step forward, not
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Your work, you don't want other people to write it for you in the sense of the ghost audience
Yeah.
telling you, oh, we don't like that. We wouldn't like that subject or that tone. It's like, well, it's not about you. This is my work. I'm going to write it. You can like it or not.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, that concludes our interview for today. Thank you so much, Ari, for allowing me to pick your brain a little bit about your experience. And, just I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for inviting me. This was such a fun experience. Thank you.
You're welcome.